Let's find the surface area of this compound figure. I can see that it's not a figure that we normally have. It's a cone and a cylinder attached together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this shape right down the center right there, and I'm going to do two separate surface area problems. They asked me to coat this in silver paint. Looks like we're trying to kill a werewolf. So I'm going to need to know surface area in order to know how much surface needs to be painted on this figure. So let's divide this up into a cylinder and into a cone. And so I'm going to have two separate problems I'm going to be doing, which then I'll have to combine those surface areas by adding them together. So for the cone piece of this, there's four things I'm going to need. I'm going to need the area of the base, the perimeter of the base, the heights, and the slant height. So let's go ahead and figure out those values for the cone first. So in the figure, I can see 7 is the distance along the surface from the vertex along the surface down to the base. That's going to be my slant height of the figure. The height is the distance inside of it from the vertex. And I don't know that. You may recall if you watched the previous videos, though, we don't actually need the height in a cone or pyramid to find its surface area. So I'm going to leave the height blank. If they don't give it to you, that's okay. We don't actually need it. Now, B and P, the area of the base and the perimeter of the base, my base is this circle. And I can see the radius of that base is 2. And so to find the area of a circle, that's pi r squared, so pi times 2 squared. And then perimeter, we don't call it that for a circle, we call it circumference. And we calculate it by doing 2 times pi times the radius. So reaching for a calculator, I can find out, actually the base area and the perimeter are the same thing in this case. So about 12.56 for the area of the base and about 12.56 for the circumference of the base as well. So let's go ahead and leave those values where they are. We'll do our calculations in a second. Let's move over and find the cylinder. To find surface area of a cylinder, we're going to need 3 things. We're going to need the area of the base, the perimeter of the base, and then the height of the cylinder. There's no such thing as slant height for a cylinder. Well, you'll notice in the diagram, we don't need to recalculate the area and perimeter of the base. Look, it's the same base. They share that same circle. So my area of the base is still going to be 12.56, and my perimeter is still going to be 12.56. The height of the prism, height's not always vertical, height's just the distance between the two bases. So I can see for the cylinder that height's going to be 5. Alright, so now that we have those values figured out, let's go ahead and find the surface areas we need. Let's start with the cone. Keep in mind with these problems, you're only trying to paint the exposed surfaces. So looking at the cone itself, the only parts that are exposed are those parts. The base of it is not actually exposed, so I don't need to paint that. What we call it when we're just dealing with like the side of that and not the base, is that's just the lateral surface area. So for the cone, all I want to do is find its lateral surface area, and looking at my formula sheet, that's P times L divided by 2. So, plugging in the numbers that we have, I get 12.56 for the perimeter, 7 for the slant height, and divide that by 2. That gets me a lateral surface area for the cone to be 43.96 inches squared. Okay, so there's the first part of our answer. Next up, let's find what we need to do, the surfaces we need to have for the cylinder. Well, in the cylinder, we again have the lateral portion of it because we have the outside, the sort of shell part of this. And so that's the LSA, so we will need that. Okay, and if you again recall or look at your formula sheet, the lateral surface area for a cylinder is perimeter times height. But there is a base exposed. Once again, that top base is not, so I don't need to include that one. I can't get to that section, I can't paint that section. But this bottom base is exposed and it is able to be painted. And so I'm going to need to add on not 2 bases, but just 1 base this time. So it's not really a lateral or a total surface area. It's the lateral plus 1 of the bases for the cylinder because only 1 base is exposed. So once again, plugging in those values and using a calculator, I'm going to get 12.56 for my perimeter of the base. Multiply that by the height of 5. And then add on just 1 base because only 1 base is exposed. And that gets me a surface area for the cylinder piece of this to be 75.36 inches squared. Alright, and now to finish out this multi-step problem before that werewolf kills us, we are going to take our 2 surface areas and we're going to add those together. So sort of my total lateral surface area, if that makes sense. So adding those pieces together, the total area that is exposed on this figure, this bullet, is 119.32 square inches. So that's how much surface area is exposed. However, they didn't want just that. They wanted us to figure out what it would cost to actually paint this. So knowing that paint costs $15 per square inch and that I have 119 square inches to paint, let's multiply our surface area by 15, and that'll get us a total cost of about $1,789.80 to paint this bullet.